Matthew Gonzalez fought against the drought and debts that threatened to destroy his family's legacy. When he finds mysterious bright blue eggs on his property, he realizes his life will never be the same again. The birds that emerge hold ancient secrets and attract powerful forces that wish to control them. Now Matthew must protect what he loves, even if it means defying the limits of reality. Before listening to this true story, remember to subscribe to the channel to hear more exciting stories like this one. The sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon when Matthew Gonzalez left his modest house on the outskirts of Santa Fe, New Mexico. At 35 years old, the premature wrinkles on his face told the story of countless early mornings like this one, struggling to keep afloat the ranch that had belonged to his family for 3 generations. The morning dew wet his boots as he walked among the withered crops. The drought of the last year had been especially cruel, and debts were piling up like dark clouds over his head. The bank had given him a final deadline of 3 months to get current with payments, or he would lose everything his family had worked for over decades. "Good morning, boss," greeted Jack, his lifelong faithful helper, as he fed the few chickens left in the corral. He was an older man, with a face weathered by the sun and eyes that seemed to hold ancestral secrets. "How are the animals this morning, Jack?" "Restless, boss. They've been acting strange since last night, like they sensed something in the air." Matthew nodded distractedly, his mind occupied with calculating how much longer he could keep the workers with his savings. It was then that he saw it, a black flash among the bushes surrounding the old barn. Intrigued, he approached. What he found left him breathless. Scattered among the weeds, as if they had been deliberately placed, were a dozen onyx black eggs, large as peacock eggs, but with a metallic sheen he had never seen in any bird. "Jack, come look at this." The old helper approached slowly, but upon seeing the eggs his face transformed. For an instant, Matthew thought he saw a mixture of recognition and fear in his eyes, but the expression disappeared so quickly that he thought he had imagined it. "We need to put them in the incubator, boss," Jack said with unusual urgency in his voice. "These aren't ordinary eggs." Over the next few weeks, Matthew devoted every spare moment to caring for the mysterious eggs. The incubator, rescued from abandonment, hummed day and night in a corner of the barn. At night, Matthew swore he saw bluish flashes emanating from the eggs, but when he turned on the light, everything seemed normal. Visits to town began to bring rumors. Some spoke of strange lights over the Gonzalez ranch. Others swore they had heard bird songs never before heard in the region. Matthew ignored the comments, focused on his new hope. One morning, while checking the temperature of the incubator, a crystalline sound caught his attention. The first egg was beginning to crack. Over the next few hours, Matthew and Jack watched in wonder as the most extraordinary chicks they had ever seen emerged one by one. Their plumage was black as the deepest night, but with iridescence that changed color under the light. Their eyes, an impossible electric blue, seemed to possess intelligence beyond the natural. "They're night onyx," Jack murmured, as if talking to himself. "They haven't been seen in these lands since—" "What did you say?" Matthew asked, but Jack was already walking away towards the barn, shaking his head. That night, as Matthew celebrated the birth of the birds with a glass of whiskey, he found a yellowed envelope that had slipped under his door. Inside was a sepia photograph of his grandfather, standing in front of the same barn, surrounded by birds identical to the ones that had just hatched. On the back, in shaky handwriting, someone had written, "History repeats itself. Be careful what you awaken." The sound of wing beats outside his window startled him. As he looked out, he saw a dark figure disappear into the night, too large to be any of his chicks, and in the distance, like an echo from another time, a song was heard that made all the dogs in the region begin to howl in unison. Dawn brought with it a thick mist that enveloped the ranch like a ghostly shroud. Matthew, who had barely slept thinking about the mysterious photograph, headed to the chicken coop early. The chicks had grown extraordinarily overnight, doubling in size. Their black feathers now showed geometric patterns that seemed to glow with their own light. "Good morning, boss," Jack's voice startled him. The old helper was holding a heavy leather book in his hands. "There's something you need to see." In the kitchen of the main house, Jack placed the book on the table. It was a field journal, its yellowed pages filled with annotations and detailed drawings of birds similar to the ones that had just hatched. "This journal belonged to your grandfather, Don Frank," Jack explained. "I was just a boy when it all happened." The pages revealed an amazing story. In 1973, the ranch had been part of a secret genetic research project. Scientists from all over the world had arrived to study a unique species of bird, the night onyx, considered sacred by the ancient inhabitants of the region. But something went wrong, Jack continued, his voice dropping to a whisper. The birds began to show strange behaviors. They communicated with each other in ways no one could explain. And then, a thunderous noise interrupted his story. In the chicken coop, the birds had begun to sing in unison, a hypnotic sound that made all the animals on the ranch fall silent. Upon entering the chicken coop, Matthew was paralyzed. The birds, now the size of adult turkeys, were formed in a perfect circle. In the center, drawn on the ground with their own feathers, was a symbol identical to one that appeared on the last pages of the journal. "It's the symbol of the Guardians," Jack murmured. "Legend says these birds are not simple animals, but protectors of ancient knowledge." As they examined the symbol, a black SUV stopped in front of the ranch. An elegant woman stepped out, dressed in a suit that clashed with the rural surroundings. "Good morning," she greeted with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Dr. Elena Vasquez from Advanced International Genetics. We've received very interesting reports about your new birds." Before Matthew could respond, one of the larger birds approached Dr. Vasquez and looked at her intently. For a moment, the air seemed to charge with electricity. "Fascinating," Elena murmured, taking a device out of her briefcase. "Exactly as the records described." "What records?" Matthew asked. "Those of Project Onyx," she replied. "The experiment your grandfather helped cover up 50 years ago." Suddenly, all the birds simultaneously extended their wings, revealing luminescent patterns that formed what appeared to be geographic coordinates. Elena quickly photographed them. "Mr. Gonzalez, these birds are worth millions," she declared. "My company is willing to make an offer that will solve all your financial problems." But before she could continue, a high-pitched sound filled the air. The birds began to emit a bluish glow, and their eyes shone with supernatural intensity. From the ground, exactly where the symbol was, a beam of light emerged that pierced the roof of the chicken coop. Amid the chaos, Jack pulled an ancient medallion from his pocket that perfectly matched the symbol on the ground. "There's something I haven't told you, boss," he said gravely. "Your grandfather wasn't just a farmer. He was the last guardian of the secret, and now you have been chosen to continue his legacy." Dr. Eleanor stepped back, her professional composure broken by fear. In her haste to leave, she dropped a folder. The documents that scattered on the ground revealed photographs of secret facilities and failed experiments, all related to Project Onyx. As Matthew picked up the papers, he found a handwritten note that chilled his blood. "The black eggs are just the beginning. The real treasure is buried beneath the ranch." Jack's revelation had left Matthew in shock. As Dr. Eleanor drove away in her black SUV, kicking up a cloud of dust on the road, the sky began to darken unnaturally. The night onyx birds continued to emit their bluish glow, their songs resonating in perfect harmony. "It's time you knew the whole truth," Jack said, guiding Matthew to a part of the ranch that had always been off-limits, the old basement of the main barn. With the medallion in hand, Jack revealed a hidden door behind decades of neglect. The stale air smelled of buried secrets and broken promises. They descended a stone staircase, illuminated only by the light of their mobile phones. What they found below defied all logic. A complete scientific facility, preserved like a time capsule. Test tubes, ancient incubators, and most shockingly, entire walls covered with symbols identical to those the birds had drawn. "Your grandfather wasn't just the guardian," Jack explained, as he turned on generators that hadn't been used in decades. "He was part of an ancient order that protected the secret of the night onyx. These birds, they're not from this world, Matthew." The fluorescent lights flickered until they stabilized, revealing something that made Matthew step back. A huge glass chamber containing what appeared to be a giant egg, 3 times larger than the previous ones, suspended in a greenish liquid. "The mother egg," Jack whispered reverently, "the origin of all the onyx." Suddenly, the sound of approaching vehicles broke the moment. On the security screens, they could see several black SUVs entering the property. Eleanor had returned, and she wasn't alone. "Quick," Jack urged. "You must make a decision now. Once the mother egg awakens, there's no turning back." But before Matthew could respond, something extraordinary happened. The birds in the barn began to sing at a frequency that made the entire structure vibrate. The mother egg started to pulse with an inner light, and the symbols on the walls came to life, glowing with blinding intensity. From the upper floor came voices and hurried footsteps. "Search every corner," Eleanor's voice was heard. "The mother egg must be here." At that critical moment, an unexpected figure appeared on the basement stairs. Caroline, Jack's daughter, a young biologist who had been absent for years. "Dad? Matthew, there's no time," she said urgently. "The Onyx are not what Eleanor and her people think. They're not a failed experiment. They're the guardians of something much bigger." Caroline pulled an ancient manuscript from her backpack. "I've been researching this for years. The symbols, the birds, it's all connected to an ancient Native American prophecy. The awakening of the mother egg isn't the end. It's the beginning." The mother egg began to crack, emitting a pulse of energy that shut down all electrical systems. In the darkness, only the glow of the symbols and the brightness of the birds illuminated the scene. "They're down here," someone shouted from above. Matthew looked at the medallion in his hand, then at Jack and Caroline, and finally at the mother egg that continued to crack. At that moment, all the night onyx descended to the basement through a ventilation duct, forming a protective circle around the group. What emerged from the mother egg would forever change not only the fate of the ranch, but the very understanding of America's ancient history. From the mother egg emerged a light so intense that everyone had to cover their eyes. When they could finally look, they were left breathless. Floating above the shards of broken glass was a creature that defied all known description. It was like a night onyx, but the size of a bald eagle, and its plumage constantly changed color, reflecting patterns that seemed to tell ancient stories. "The principal guardian," Caroline whispered, her eyes shining with tears of awe. The legends were true. The footsteps on the stairs stopped abruptly. Eleanor and her team were paralyzed by the scene. The creature spread its wings, revealing luminescent symbols that began to project onto the basement walls, creating a kind of three-dimensional film that showed the true history. The images revealed an ancient civilization that had existed in parallel with the Native Americans, guardians of knowledge that connected the earth with something beyond the stars. The Onyx were not simple birds. They were messengers, protectors of secrets that humanity was not yet ready to understand. "Impossible," Eleanor murmured, dropping her recording device. "All these years, we were wrong." The principal guardian emitted a melodious sound that resonated in the minds of all present, transmitting not only sounds, but also images and emotions. It showed how the Gonzales Ranch had been chosen generations ago as a connection point, a place where the barriers between different realities became thinner. Suddenly, luminous crystals began to emerge from the ground, forming a structure that resembled an ancient temple. The smaller onyx perched in a specific formation, creating a pattern that complemented the crystals. "The portal is opening," Caroline announced, quickly consulting her manuscript. "This only happens once every 100 years." But as wonder took hold of everyone, a metallic sound broke the magic of the moment. One of Eleanor's men had pulled out a containment device. "I'm sorry," Eleanor said, regaining her composure, "but this is too important to leave in the hands of some ranchers." Before they could react, more men appeared with similar equipment. However, something unexpected happened. Jack stepped forward, and from his medallion emanated a light that connected with the crystals on the ground. "My family has been guardians too," he revealed with a firm voice. "For generations we have protected this place, waiting for this moment." The principal guardian rose even higher, and its song changed to one that made the crystals vibrate at a specific frequency. Eleanor's team's devices began to fail, emitting sparks before shutting down completely. But the real surprise came when Caroline pulled a second medallion from her backpack, identical to her father's. "There's something else you need to know," she said, looking at Matthew significantly. "Your mother and my mother didn't die in an accident 20 years ago. They crossed the portal to protect something fundamental, and now the time has come for them to return." The crystals reached their maximum brightness, and in the center of the pattern formed by the birds, what appeared to be a window to another place began to open. a place where the sky had two moons and mountains floated in the air. The Principal Guardian looked directly at Matthew, and in his mind a clear message resonated. The choice is yours, but you must decide now. The portal will only remain open during the Song of the Onyx. The portal pulsed with an ancient energy, projecting dancing shadows on the basement walls. Matthew felt the weight of the decision on his shoulders as he observed that threshold to another world, where two moons hung like jewels in a strange sky. "Your mother is waiting for you," Caroline said softly, placing a hand on his shoulder. "She and my mother have been preparing everything for this moment." Eleanor stepped forward, her expression transformed by the revelation. "If what you say is true, this goes beyond any scientific discovery in human history." The Principal Guardian descended until it was in front of Matthew, its blue eyes shining with ancestral intelligence. Through a mental connection, it shared images of a world where the night onyx flew freely among crystalline cities that defied gravity. Suddenly, a figure emerged from the portal. It was a woman with silver hair and familiar eyes. Matthew felt his heart stop. "Mum," he whispered, barely able to form the word. Maria Gonzalez, who had supposedly died 20 years ago, stood before them, wearing clothes that seemed woven from light. Next to her appeared another woman, whom Caroline immediately recognized as her mother. "Time is running out," Maria announced urgently. "The crystals are reaching their critical point." The two women quickly explained how they had discovered that the ranch was not just a connection point, but the key to maintaining the balance between both worlds. The Onyx were not simple messengers. They were guardians of an ancient technology that kept the fabric of reality stable. "That's why Eleanor's experiments were doomed to failure," Caroline's mother explained. "You can't replicate something that exists in multiple dimensions at once." But as the revelations unfolded, something unexpected happened. The crystals began to emit a discordant hum, and the portal started to fluctuate dangerously. "Something is interfering with the frequency," Caroline shouted, quickly consulting her instruments. At that moment, one of Eleanor's men revealed a hidden device that was altering the energy field. "I'm sorry, Doctor," he said, "but I have higher orders." Chaos broke out. The Onyx began to fly in defensive formations, their songs becoming more intense, trying to counteract the interference. The Principal Guardian extended its wings, creating a force field around the group. Maria quickly approached Matthew. "Son, there's something you need to know. The ranch, the Onyx, your destiny. Everything is connected to an ancient prophecy. You are the last of a line of dimensional guardians, and only you can restore the balance." From her tunic, she extracted a crystal that pulsed with the same rhythm as Matthew's heart. "This is the heart of the worlds. For 20 years we have protected it on the other side, waiting for this moment." The ground began to shake. Cracks appeared in the basement walls, and the portal started to emit erratic flashes. "We must decide now," Caroline's mother shouted. "The portal won't resist much longer." It was then that Jack revealed his last surprise. From a secret compartment in the wall, he extracted an ancient book whose pages seemed to be written with living light. "The Codex of the Guardians," Caroline gasped. "I thought it was lost." The book opened on its own, its pages fluttering until stopping at a prophecy that showed exactly the scene they were living: the portal, the Onyx, and a decision that would change the fate of two worlds. The pages of the ancient codex glowed with their own light, revealing illustrations that came to life before their eyes. The symbols transformed into animated sequences that showed the true nature of the Onyx and their connection to both worlds. "The codex speaks of a moment like this," Caroline translated, her fingers tracing the luminescent symbols. "Every 500 years, the worlds align perfectly, allowing a decision that will rewrite the destiny of both realities." Maria held the heart of the worlds, which pulsed ever more intensely. The prophecy mentions a guardian born of two worlds, someone who can unite both realities without destroying them. The man who had revealed the interference device tried to reach for the codex, but the Onyx formed a protective barrier, their feathers glowing with blinding intensity. "You don't understand," said the man, finally revealing his true identity. "My name is Gabriel Vasquez, Eleanor's brother. I worked with your mothers on the original project, before they decided to cross the portal. Eleanor looked at her brother in astonishment. "You knew all this?" Gabriel nodded gravely. "I've been following the patterns for years. The Onyx are not just guardians. They're the key to the evolution of our species." The principal guardian then descended, landing between Matthew and the heart of the worlds. Through their mental connection, it shared an astonishing truth. The Onyx hadn't chosen the ranch by chance. Matthew's blood contained both human DNA and genes from their world, inherited through generations of guardians. "That's why the eggs found you," Maria explained. "The ranch isn't just a connection point, it's a genetic nexus." Suddenly, the codex began to emit a resonant hum that synchronized with the crystals on the floor. The pages became transparent, revealing a multidimensional map that showed how both worlds were connected through energy lines that converged exactly at the ranch. Caroline, studying the map, made a shocking discovery. The ancient Native American sites, they're all built on these convergence points. But as this revelation sank in, the portal began to show signs of instability. The two moons of the other world seemed closer, and the atmosphere between the worlds was becoming increasingly thin. "The balance is breaking," Caroline's mother warned. "If we don't act now, both worlds will begin to merge catastrophically." Gabriel turned off his interference device. "They're right. What we were seeking wasn't control, but understanding." The principal guardian spread its wings, projecting a holographic image that showed the consequences of each possible decision. In one scenario, the worlds remained separate but connected through the guardians. In another, they merged, creating a new but potentially chaotic reality. Matthew looked at the heart of the worlds in his mother's hands, then at the onyx surrounding him, and finally at the codex that revealed his true lineage. The decision he would make would not only affect the ranch or his family, but the very fabric of two realities. It was then that the codex revealed its final surprise, a hidden page that materialized from the air, showing a third option that no one had considered. The ancient codex's pages glowed with their own light, revealing illustrations that seemed to come to life. They showed a sequence of events culminating precisely in this moment: the fluctuating portal, the onyx forming a protective circle, and a decision hanging on a knife's edge. "The codex speaks of a moment of convergence," Caroline translated, her fingers tracing the luminescent symbols. "When the worlds align and the guardian must choose not between one world or another, but how to unite them." The interference device was still active, causing the portal to become increasingly unstable. Eleanor, finally understanding the magnitude of what was at stake, confronted her own employee. "Turn that off immediately," she ordered, but the man shook his head. "I'm sorry, Doctor, but there are very powerful people who prefer some secrets to remain buried." Maria approached the codex, her light-woven clothes creating patterns that synchronized with the book's pages. "There's a reason we chose this moment to return," she explained. "The cycles are completing. What began 5 generations ago must conclude now." The principal guardian descended next to the codex, and as it touched the pages with its wing, new illustrations began to appear. They showed the complete history: how the first Gonzalez had discovered the portal, how the Onyx had been sent as ambassadors between worlds, and how human greed had threatened to destroy the delicate balance. Suddenly, the ground beneath their feet began to transform. Crystals of various colors emerged, forming a 3-dimensional map showing the energy lines connecting the ranch with other points around the world. "The portal network," Caroline's mother whispered. "It's awakening." Matthew, holding the heart of the worlds that his mother had handed him, felt how the crystal pulsed faster and faster. Through it, he could perceive the currents of energy flowing between dimensions. But then, something unexpected happened. The codex began to reveal pages that no one had seen before, pages that spoke of a third world, one that existed in the space between dimensions. "The Twilight Realm," Caroline read in awe. "The original home of the Onyx." The principal guardian projected into everyone's minds a vision of this intermediate realm, a place where reality was fluid, where time flowed differently, and where the deepest secrets of the universe were kept. "That's why the genetic experiments never worked," Eleanor realized. "The Onyx aren't creatures of a single world. They're interdimensional beings." The interference device began to overload, emitting dangerous sparks. The man controlling it, seeing that the situation was getting out of hand, tried to flee, but the onyx formed a barrier blocking his path. Jack, who had remained silent observing everything, stepped forward. "There's something else in the codex," he said, pointing to a page that began to glow with increasing intensity. A warning. The ancient words came to life, floating in the air as if written with fire. When the three worlds align, the Guardian must choose to unite the realms in harmony or let the veil separate them forever. But beware of the hasty decision, for there are truths that still remain hidden. At that moment, the heart of the worlds in Matthew's hands began to emit a pulse of energy that resonated with the floor crystals, the portal, and the onyx themselves. A new revelation was about to change everything they thought they knew. The pulse of energy emanating from the heart of the worlds expanded in concentric waves, passing through everyone present. For an instant, each person could see and feel the three worlds simultaneously, their own, the one with two moons, and the mysterious twilight realm. Matthew gasped, overwhelmed by the intensity of the experience. It's too much," he murmured, feeling as if his mind was about to fragment. The principal guardian approached, gently touching Matthew's forehead with its beak. Immediately, the cacophony of sensations ordered itself, allowing him to process the vastness of information he was receiving. The three worlds aren't separate, Matthew suddenly understood. They're like layers of the same reality. Caroline, who was also experiencing the vision, nodded fervently. "It's as if our world were just the surface of a much deeper ocean." The interference device finally overloaded, exploding in a shower of sparks. The man controlling it fell to his knees, his face a mask of awe and fear. "I'm sorry," he sobbed. "I didn't know. We didn't understand." But the destruction of the device, instead of stabilizing the situation, seemed to accelerate the convergence process. The portal began to expand, its edges blurring until it seemed that the entire basement was transforming into a threshold between worlds. Maria and Caroline's mother looked at each other with concern. "This shouldn't be happening," said the latter. "The alignment shouldn't be this violent." It was then that the codex revealed its deepest secret. The pages detached from the book, floating in the air and rearranging themselves into a three-dimensional structure reminiscent of a tree. Each branch represented a timeline, each leaf a decision. "It's a map of time," Eleanor exclaimed, her eyes shining with scientific understanding. It shows all the possible ramifications of this moment." Gabriel, who had remained silent, stepped forward. "It's not just a map," he said gravely. "It's a warning. Look." He pointed to one of the main branches, which darkened and withered as it extended. The principal guardian projected into their minds the vision corresponding to that timeline, a future where the three worlds merged chaotically, tearing the very fabric of reality. "If we don't do something," Maria explained, "the uncontrolled convergence will destroy not only our worlds, but the cosmic balance itself." Matthew, still holding the heart of the worlds, felt how the crystal pulsed with increasing urgency. "There's something else," he said, closing his eyes to concentrate on what the artifact was trying to communicate to him. "The heart is trying to show me something." Suddenly, a new vision unfolded before everyone. It showed the first onyx, not as simple interdimensional birds, but as ancient cosmic guardians. It had been they who, eons ago, had created the separation between the worlds to protect the delicate balance of the multiverse. The onyx aren't messengers, Jack understood. They're the original architects of reality. The principal guardian nodded, confirming this revelation. Through its mental connection, it shared an even deeper truth. Humans and the creatures of the world of two moons were distant descendants of the original onyx. The separation of the worlds had been necessary to allow the independent evolution of each branch. "That's why Matthew can understand them," Caroline said. "That's why the eggs found him. He carries the heritage of the creators in his blood." But as this revelation settled in, the portal continued to expand. The basement walls began to blur, and fragmented realities from the three worlds chaotically intermingled. Matthew looked at the heart of the worlds, then at the floating codex, and finally at the onyx surrounding him. He understood that the weight of the decision fell on him. It wasn't simply about choosing between worlds, but about rewriting the very rules of reality. "There's a way," he finally said, his voice laden with determination, "but it will require a sacrifice." The Principal Guardian inclined its head, as if it had been waiting for these words since the beginning of time. The basement had become a kaleidoscope of intermingled realities. Fragments of the world with two moons fused with the ranch, while echoes of the Twilight Realm flickered in and out of existence. Amidst this chaos, Matthew stood tall, holding the heart of the worlds that pulsed with an almost unbearable energy. "The sacrifice," Matthew began, his voice resonating with an authority that surprised even his mother, "is not of blood or life. It's of identity." The Principal Guardian spread its wings, projecting a holographic image that illustrated Matthew's words. It showed the original Onyx, beings of pure light, dividing and fragmenting to give birth to the three worlds. "To restore the balance," Matthew continued, understanding the vision, "I must become the living bridge between the worlds. Not as I am now, but as a being that exists simultaneously in all three realities." Maria stepped forward, tears shining in her eyes. "Son, do you understand what that means? You'll no longer be just human. You'll lose much of what makes you, you." Caroline, who had been frantically studying the floating codex, intervened. "According to this, the transformation is irreversible. You'll become an eternal guardian, existing outside linear time." Gabriel, who until now had remained silent, spoke with a broken voice. "All this time, we were seeking to control the power of the Onyx, when in reality, it was we who needed to evolve." The ground shook violently, reminding them of the urgency of the situation. Dimensional cracks began to open in the air, showing fleeting visions of chaotic realities where the worlds had already merged disastrously. Eleanor, overcoming her initial skepticism, approached Matthew. "From a scientific perspective, what you're proposing defies everything we thought we knew about physics and biology. But after all we've seen, I believe it's our only hope." Jack, tears in his eyes, placed a hand on Matthew's shoulder. "Your grandfather would be proud. He always knew you were destined for something great, although he never imagined it would be." "This," the Principal Guardian perched in front of Matthew, its blue eyes shining with supernatural intensity. Through their mental connection, it shared the transformation process. Matthew would have to merge with the heart of the worlds, using the energy of the portal and the wisdom of the Codex to reconstruct his being at a quantum level. "There's something else you should know," Matthew said, looking at all those present. "Once I become the bridge, I'll need anchors in each world. People who keep my connection to humanity and the other realities alive." Maria nodded, understanding. "That's why we returned, not just to guide you, but to be your anchors." Caroline stepped forward. "I'll stay too. Someone must study and protect the Codex, ensuring its knowledge isn't lost." Gabriel and Eleanor exchanged a glance and, in an act of redemption, volunteered to be the scientific guardians, studying and protecting the convergence points around the world. Jack, with a sad smile, added, "And I'll take care of the ranch and the Onyx who decide to stay. This place will always be a home for you, Matthew, in whatever form you take." With all the pieces in place, Matthew closed his eyes and pressed the heart of the worlds against his chest. The Onyx began to sing, their melody resonating across dimensions. The Codex unrolled completely, its pages enveloping Matthew in a cocoon of ancestral knowledge. Slowly, Matthew began to rise into the air, his body becoming translucent. Veins of blue energy, similar to that of the Onyx, began to intertwine with his human form. "I love you all," whispered Matthew, his voice already sounding distant and ethereal. "I'll never forget you." With a blinding flash, Matthew and the heart of the worlds merged completely. The shockwave that followed restored the balance, sealing the dimensional cracks and stabilizing the portal. When everyone could see again, where Matthew had been before now floated a being of light and energy, with wings that seemed to span galaxies and eyes that contained the wisdom of eons. The new guardian extended a hand, or what appeared to be one, towards his loved ones. His voice, though familiar, now resonated with echoes of other worlds. "This is not an end," said the entity that was once Matthew. It's just the beginning of something wonderful. The days following Matthew's transformation were a whirlwind of activity and adaptation. The ranch, now a stable nexus between the three worlds, buzzed with renewed energy. The Onyx flew freely between dimensions, their songs creating harmonies that resonated through the very fabric of reality. Maria and Caroline's mother, fulfilling their role as anchors, established an interdimensional council. Representatives from the three worlds met regularly at the ranch to discuss matters affecting the newly unified multiverse. Caroline, for her part, immersed herself in the study of the Codex. With each passing day, she discovered new secrets and prophecies that helped guide the Council's decisions. "It's as if the book is alive," she often explained, revealing its wisdom as we need it. Eleanor and Gabriel, redeemed by their role in the crisis, led an international team of scientists dedicated to mapping and studying the convergence points around the world. Their discoveries revolutionized fields from quantum physics to anthropology, revealing that many ancient sites were, in fact, dormant portals. Jack, true to his promise, turned the ranch into a sanctuary for the Onyx and an interdimensional learning center. Young people from all three worlds came to study the shared history and learn the arts of cosmic diplomacy. But not everything was harmony and discoveries. News of the existence of other worlds and interdimensional beings generated mixed reactions in the general population. While many embraced this new era of cosmic wonders, others feared the unknown and advocated for closing the portals. Amidst this tumult, the entity that was once Matthew appeared in the sky above the ranch, visible to everyone for miles around. His form, now a perfect fusion of energy and matter, radiated a calmness that seemed to extend across the entire planet. "Do not fear," his voice resonated in everyone's minds. "The separation was necessary for our growth, but now it's time to remember our fundamental unity. We are all branches of the same cosmic tree." These words, transmitted simultaneously in the three worlds, marked a turning point. Gradually, fear gave way to curiosity and then to collaboration. A year after the convergence, the ranch hosted the first festival of the three worlds. Beings from all realities gathered to share knowledge, art, and visions of the future. The Onyx performed an aerial display that defied all understanding of physics, leaving spectators in awe. During the festival, Caroline made a surprising announcement. The Codex had revealed the existence of other nodes similar to the ranch, scattered throughout the cosmos. "We are not alone," she explained excitedly. "There are other multiverses, other convergences waiting to be discovered." This revelation ignited a spark of exploration in the three worlds. Soon, teams of interdimensional adventurers were formed, ready to map the confines of the multiverse. Meanwhile, in the Twilight Realm, the original Onyx watched with approval the unfolding of events. Matthew's decision had been the right one, restoring a balance that had been lost eons ago. One night, as Maria contemplated the two moons that now adorned the Earth's sky, she felt a familiar presence. Matthew's ethereal form materialized beside her. "My son," she whispered, tears of joy in her eyes. "Mother," the entity responded, his voice an echo of distant stars. "I have seen wonders beyond all comprehension, but nothing compares to the love I feel for all of you." Matthew extended what appeared to be a hand, and in it formed a holographic image of the future, civilizations flourishing in harmony, technologies born from the fusion of science and magic, and brave explorers traversing the confines of the multiverse. "This is just the beginning," Matthew said. "The true journey is only starting." As the image faded, Maria noticed something extraordinary. In the place where Matthew had been, a small black egg with blue streaks rested on the grass. Beside it, a feather that shone with the light of 1,000 stars. The cycle continued, and with it, the promise of a limitless future. 5 years had passed since the Great Convergence, as the event that united the three worlds was now known. The Daybreak Ranch had transformed into an interdimensional metropolis, a melting pot of cultures and species from all realities. Maria, now a respected leader of the Tricosmic Council, walked through the floating gardens that surrounded the old main house. Bioluminescent plants from the Twilight Realm intertwined with singing flowers from the world of two moons, creating a visual and auditory symphony that left visitors breathless. Caroline was waiting for her at the new multiversal observatory, a crystalline structure that rose towards the sky, its facets reflecting the light of 3 different suns. "We need to talk," Caroline said, her face a mixture of excitement and concern. "The Codex has revealed something unsettling." Inside the observatory, the Codex floated in the center of the room, its pages glowing with a pulsing light. Eleanor and Gabriel, who had been studying the new energy patterns, joined them. "We've detected fluctuations in the interdimensional matrix," Eleanor explained, projecting a 3-dimensional hologram of the multiverse. "It's as if something is trying to enter." Gabriel nodded gravely. "And we don't think it's friendly." The Codex suddenly opened, revealing a page they had never seen before. On it, a terrifying image came to life, a dark entity vast as a galaxy, extending through the cracks between worlds. "The Reality Devourers," Caroline read, her voice trembling slightly. "Beings that exist outside the multiverse, feeding on entire worlds." Just then the sky darkened. The 2 moons of the sister world, normally visible during the day, were tinged blood red. The onyx began to sing an anguished melody that resonated in every corner of the ranch. Matthew's ethereal form appeared in the center of the room, his expression more serious than they had ever seen it. "I have felt them approaching," he said, his voice an echo of dying stars. "The convergence not only united us, it also attracted their attention." Maria stepped forward, her determination unshakable despite the fear. "What can we do?" Matthew spread his cosmic wings, projecting a vision of the entire multiverse. "We must unite not just our 3 worlds, but all worlds. The only way to resist is with the combined strength of all realities." The Codex began to glow intensely, its pages fluttering as if they were alive. Caroline interpreted it quickly. "It says there's a way, but it will require an even greater sacrifice than before." Gabriel, who had been analyzing the data, intervened. "If we channel the energy of all portals simultaneously, we could create a multiversal barrier." "But the overload would destroy all convergence points," Eleanor completed, understanding the magnitude of what they were proposing. Matthew nodded solemnly. "And I would have to be the conduit. My existence as an interdimensional being would come to an end."